Good Tuesday morning, everyone, and thanks for joining us from the Ohio AgNet, the voice you know with the News You Trust studio, sponsored by BASF, where you can count on the trusted performance of Elevo seed treatment to protect your soybean crop. I'm Joe Everett, bringing you today's farm news. Some quick calendar reminders. Powered by soy biodiesel, today Dale will be at the Farm Credit Office in Washington Courthouse for their monthly update. Then join the Ohio AgNet and Heritage Co-op for their FFA Day at the H-Plot in Waterford, October 2nd. Follow Heritage Co-op on social media for details. Then the Jackson County Regional Livestock Market will have their bred cow sale Friday at 6 p.m. and the cattle sale Saturday at 11 a.m. JCRLM.com, your livestock authority. Well, the USDA will issue a second emergency commodity assistance program payment to eligible producers for the 2024 crop year. Of the authorized $10 billion in ECAP assistance, USDA's Farm Service Agency has already provided over $8 billion in payments to eligible producers to mitigate the impacts of increased input costs and falling commodity prices. Initial ECAP payments were factored by 85% to ensure the total program payments did not exceed $10 billion in available funding, said USDA Deputy Undersecretary Brooke Appleton. Because additional funds remain, FSA is issuing another payment. Payments will automatically be made to eligible producers with approved ECAP applications who received an initial payment. Any applications approved after September 25th will receive one lump sum. These payments, combined with the entire suite of supplemental disaster assistance programs, will help producers navigate market uncertainty, pay down debt from 2024 crop year, and secure financing for 2026, Appleton said. Well, farmers have already been making some great progress this harvest season. Let's see how they're getting along. Coverage of the Ohio Crop Progress Report is sponsored by Unleaded 88. Save on fuel with the blue handle. Fill up with Unleaded 88. Discover more at ohiocornandwheat.org. Starting with the national numbers, corn dented was estimated at 95%, equal to last year's pace, but 1 point behind the 5-year average of 96%. Corn matured was pegged at 71%, 2 points behind last year's 73%, and 3 points behind the 5-year average of 74%. As we turn to the harvest progress numbers, the pace of corn harvest picked up slightly last week, moving ahead 7 percentage points to reach 18% complete as of Sunday. That is 2 points behind last year's 20% and 1 point behind the 5-year average of 19%. As for its crop condition, estimated that 66% of the corn crop was in good to excellent condition nationwide, unchanged from the previous week. As we turn to soybeans dropping leaves were pegged at 79%, equal to last year, but 2 points ahead of the 5-year average of 77%. As for the harvest progress, soybean harvest gained momentum last week, moving ahead 10 percentage points last week to reach 19% complete as of Sunday, 5 points behind last year's 24% and 1 point behind the 5-year average of 20%. As for the crop condition, estimated that 62% of the soybeans still in the field were in good to excellent condition, up 1 point from 61% the previous week and below last year's rating of 64%. As we turn to the winter wheat planting progress, it jumped 14 points last week to reach 34% nationwide as of Sunday, 3 points behind last year's 37% and 2 points behind the 5-year average of 36%. Now for your Ohio numbers. Well, combines have been making progress here in the Buckeye State. Corn harvest is at 10% complete this week. That's 3 points ahead of the 5-year average. As we turn to soybeans, they jumped up to 21% complete this week. That is 9 points ahead of the 5-year average. As we turn to winter wheat planted acres, it is pegged at 11% complete this week. That is 1 point behind the 5-year average. Stay tuned. We'll be back with today's weather next here on the Ohio AgNet.
Do you know where the kids are?
Yeah, they're just right over there.
A child dies in an agriculture-related accident every 3 days. Every day, at least 33 kids are injured. 60% of them were not working when they were injured. Let's make sure the next generation is safe. No children are safe before moving equipment. This message brought to you by the Ohio AgNet, OSU Extension Ag Safety and Health Team, and this station.
So many things that can have an impact on agriculture are out of the farmer's control. Yet when the weather doesn't cooperate, markets go lower, or equipment breaks down, the farmer blames themselves. Hi, I am Nathan Brown, a Highland County farmer and a member of the Ohio Farm Bureau Board of Trustees. If you or someone you know is struggling with stress on the farm, text 4HOPE to 741-741 or go visit gotyourbackohio.org, a message from the Ohio Farm Bureau Federation.
You're tuning in on the Ohio AgNet. Today's weather brought to us by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. Here's the forecast.
Sunny, warm, dry the rest of this week. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin. Quick forecast update here in Ohio over the next week or so. I don't have anything new, exciting, or different. Game on harvest. We can roll. Evaporation happening quickly. I think dew burns off very, very quickly in the mornings. You can get after it very, very nicely. However, as we get into next week, Monday is going to be the same, sunny, warm, and dry. Tuesday, a little bit of instability trying to pop up down in our neck of the woods here. I guess I won't rule out a shower or two in northwest Ohio Tuesday morning to midday, but then we're back to dry weather next Wednesday and Thursday. Our next frontal boundary shows up here next Friday, the 10th. That front sweeps through, not a lot of moisture with it, but maybe a tenth to 3/4 of an inch, coverage at 90% of the Buckeye State. That front sets the stage for a secondary front to come through, not with much moisture. A powerful low sits over the Great Lakes, but this one shows strong winds and a big change in air mass. Much cooler air tries to race in behind this front for the 12th and 13th. As a matter of fact, the week of the 13th, we are significantly cooler, back closer to where we should be this time of year. Again, I don't want to stress the moisture that much. It doesn't look like it's going to be a big story. Yes, we see some, but the change in air mass is going to be the big hallmark of the middle of October. That's the way your forecast is stacking up. I'm meteorologist Ryan Martin.
Hey, thanks, Ryan. Well, a leading Senate Ag Committee Republican argues China is no longer a reliable trading partner, and the United States producers must look to value-added farm goods to make up for losses in the Chinese market.
It's a fool's market. It's fool's gold. If you build a market that you think is going to depend upon China from year to year, count me out.
Kansas Senator Roger Marshall told AgriPulse's annual Ag Outlook Forum that as China continues to tariff U.S. soybeans out of its market, farmers need to look to value-added exports and other markets.
So the president gets an ethanol deal done in England. We're only using 20% of the tariff rate quota that we have going in there in ethanol. So now I need the ethanol companies, and they're doing it. They're going to go in there behind and try to get those ethanol deals done with England.
Marshall claims India is another potential market for ethanol and dairy. But the senator says the emphasis must be on value-added products, not just exports.
If you think that trade is going to solve all our woes, I think you're wrong. I think the focus needs to be turning corn, turning commodities into protein or to biofuels.
Soybean growers argue that their loss in China cannot be made up elsewhere. Marshall says it's time to look elsewhere, but for goods that have more value. Well, ATCO is taking the unusual step of asking federal court for what is called an interlocutory appeal in the Federal Trade Commission's right to repair lawsuit against John Deere. This comes after the ruling in August that gave Deere access to confidential competitor information gathered during the FTC's investigation. That includes sensitive details like pricing, sales, and financial data from ATCO, as well as CNH Industrial and Kubota. ATCO argues the court didn't apply the stricter protections that are normally used for non-party materials. The company says once this information is released, there's no way to guard against it being misused. Not only the FTC's case, but also in related lawsuits brought by farmers. The company wants the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals to step in right away and decide what legal standards should apply when the government is holding competitor data in an antitrust case. Meanwhile, Deere says it plans to vigorously defend itself as the broader right to repair fight continues. Well, an invasive pest is spreading across Ohio, putting one of the state's most popular landscaping plants at risk. The Ohio Department of Agriculture says the box tree moth has now been detected in 4 or more counties: Ashtabula, Clark, Cuyahoga, and Preble, bringing the total to 11 counties since it was first found in the state last summer. The moth, originally from East Asia, feeds on boxwood shrubs, which is a major part of Ohio's nursery industry and a favorite in the yards and gardens. Officials are asking homeowners and businesses to be on the lookout. If you spot damage to boxwood plants like chewed leaves or webbing, snap a photo and report it to ODA's online tool. Inspectors will continue trapping and surveying to see how widespread the pest is. You can find photos, treatment options, and reporting resources at the Ohio Department of Agriculture's website. To learn more, you can find this full article at ohioagnet.com. Stay tuned. We'll be back with your grain analysis and your overnight markets after this.
AmeriHealth Caritas Ohio is your Medicaid plan for more benefits, more rewards. We know that good health means more than just seeing a doctor when you're sick. Eligible members can receive extras like home-delivered meals and family essentials, like baby carriers and kids' school supplies. Members can even earn rewards for playing mobile health trivia games. Learn more at AmeriHealthCaritasoh.com and call the Ohio Medicaid Consumer Hotline at 1-800-324-8680 to choose AmeriHealth Caritas Ohio.
Attention construction pros. Purple Wave Auction brings quality equipment to your fingertips. Join our bi-weekly online auctions featuring dozers, excavators, loaders, and more. We provide detailed listings, photos, and seller contact info. Inspect online or in person. With our no reserve policy, every item sells to the highest bidder. Visit purplewave.com today and see why informed builders choose Purple Wave. Transparent processes, real deals, your next great purchase awaits. purplewave.com.
It's now time for today's market analysis, which is brought to you by the Louis Dreyfus Company, excited to be building the newest state-of-the-art soybean crush facility in Upper Sandusky, Ohio. Call 574-566-2113 for information on soybean marketing to LDC. Here's Ryan Martin.
Grain markets finished the Monday session mixed overall. Corn was fractionally lower on the nearby, fractionally higher on the deferreds. Beans were down, but off of lows at the close, down about 3 to 4 cents. And then you had the wheat markets that traded higher most of the day. At the end of the day, KC was still higher, but we saw Chicago slip fractionally lower. Yesterday, the big news out there wasn't really anything to get too super excited about. I think most of the market was trying to pay attention to the fact that there's a big report that comes out today, quarterly grain stocks report. Normally, this report is a little bit of a snooze fest, but this report also historically has given us some of the bigger surprises out there, like when they found 300 to 400 million bushels of corn from a year and a half earlier, a few years back. What happens here? Most of us are watching the feed and residual use number on corn. That's the USDA fudge factor to make balance sheets make sense, so maybe we do something there. Yesterday on beans, corn holding a 4.18 and a quarter in the December corn and the 10.05 in November soybeans did allow for a little bit of a technical bounce, or at least not necessarily being quite as bearish. Traders did adjust positions ahead of the stocks and seeding report here today. The bulk of the marketplace, though, still is looking at the U.S.-China situation and doesn't want to have very strong net long positions ahead of that. There's just the idea that not much gets done. We did have a flash reported sale yesterday, 135,600 tons of corn to Mexico and 110,600 tons of corn to unknown destinations. Weekly export inspections for the week ending September 25th were 60 million bushels of corn, 21.8 million bushels of beans, 27.1 million bushels of wheat. For the respective crop years to date, the U.S. has done a little bit more year on year, up 70 million bushels on corn, nearly flat with where they're expected to be on beans, and up 46 million bushels year on year on the wheat market. EPA will release its July U.S. biofuels feedstock and usage report later today. Pay attention to that. I'm Ryan Martin.
Hey, thanks, Ryan. Now let's take a look at your overnight trade brought to us by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. December corn, $4.20.5, down a penny. March corn, $4.37.25, down 1 1/4. And May corn, $4.46 3/4, down 1 cent. As we turn to soybeans, November, $10.06 3/4, down 3 3/4. January soybeans, $10.25 3/4, down 4 cents. And March soybeans, $10.41 3/4, down 3 3/4. As we turn to wheat, December, $5.17.5, down 2 cents. And July wheat, $5.59 1/4, down 1 1/2. As we turn to livestock from yesterday's close, October live cattle, $231.32, down 47 cents. December live cattle, $233.82, down 47 cents. February live cattle, $236.22, down 27 cents. October lean hogs, $101.15, down 35 cents. December lean hogs, $90.35, down 70 cents. February lean hogs, 91.90, down 27 cents. As we turn to feeder cattle, November, 353.87, down 60 cents. January feeder cattle, 347.35, down 47 cents. And October Class 3 milk, 17.12, up 13 cents. Thanks for joining us and have a great morning, everyone. This is the Ohio AgNet.